Today we're going to take a look at what Europe is going to look like in 2025. Or might. Why would you want to do this? I mean, hello, I think they're going to be fine. Switzerland is always exempt from everything, apparently. Hello everybody, Roger says hey. So I was browsing YouTube the other day and I came across this video about what is Europe going to look like in 2025, and I thought to myself, this might be an interesting video to watch. Honestly, I have no idea kind of what the socio-political situation is over in Europe right now. What I do know is that some of you have left comments on a few of my videos saying stuff like, you know, Scotland is going to break away from the UK, or like the two Irelands are going to go at it again. I do know that the UK broke away from the EU with Brexit, but other than that, I really have absolutely no idea. So I'm hoping this video might kind of enlighten me a little bit on what's going on over in Europe. Now, like a lot of these videos, this is probably just pure speculation, but some of it might be grounded in actual fact. And since most of my viewers are over in Europe, you're gonna know way better than I do how much of this is accurate. So I would like to hear from you in the comments whether you agree or disagree with the stuff in this video. I'm sure I'm gonna have some questions here and there too, so you know, if you can answer those, I would appreciate it. But let's go ahead and take a look. This video is from the channel General Knowledge. I don't think I've done a video on this channel yet, so I hope it's good. So let's see what Europe might look like in a few years.
If the UK begins its dissolution, Gibraltar could begin seeking for independence as a micro-state in the style of Monaco or Andorra. Venice might reignite its desire for independence, a place where in 2014 2.1 million people voted for secession in an unofficial referendum. In 2017, the European Union outlined 5 scenarios for the future of Europe in the following years and decades. The 5 options were carrying on, nothing but the single market, those who want to do more, doing less more efficiently.
First of all, carrying on is such a European way of saying it. It strikes me as like British almost, just, you know, carry on.
But the single market, those who want to do more, doing less more efficiently, and doing much more together. The first option meant going on as we are. 2 meant rolling back the process of European unity and common sovereignty. And other 2 meant moving further towards a more unified and cooperative Europe. Now, this was not one of the options included in these 5, but there are some defenders of a more federalized Europe, sort of a united European states, where a stronger central government would exist and each country would become not its own country as they are now, but a single state of that very large country. The doing much more together option could, to a certain extent, be interpreted as opening up that possibility. In a situation like that, each country could become a state, but as time went on, new states might arise from within to facilitate regional administration.
What do you guys think about that? Is that like something scary to you, to do away with all of the countries and then everybody just comes together united and you guys have more like individual states? I don't know. What do you guys over in Europe think about that? To me, that seems like it might be a bit of a reach because I feel like all of the countries in Europe have some very like distinct cultures. So I would think that you might want to keep your country as is, but I don't know. Maybe there are a lot of you over there who would like this idea.
On new states might arise from within to facilitate regional administration. We could end up with a United European States, UES, that looked something like this map, in which each color is a state. This is just a random map I found on Reddit, so the divisions might not make sense, but you get the idea.
I wonder which Redditor did this. I'm just looking at the different areas here. Occitania in France? I mean, it looks like a lot of the borders might still be the same, but some of them are not. I'm sure these names all have meaningful reasons that they're named this, but this would just be convoluted. It just looks convoluted to me. I feel like it would be an administrative nightmare. It just looks like that to me. I don't know. But I guess my question would be why? Why would you want to do this?
A map I found on Reddit, so the divisions might not make sense, but you get the idea. In a federalized model at a European scale, certain countries might be too big, and it could make sense to further separate them. France could be split into 3, Germany into 4, Poland and Italy in 2 as well, and Spain into its autonomous communities, amongst others. This would never happen by 2025, but I feel like the next 5 years are going to be key in defining which of these models Europe is effectively going to follow, and how that choice will mark the future of the continent, leading us to think how this new European map might look like.
Really?
Speaking of
Because, like, I
thinking,
don't is there, like, a movement underway to make these radical changes in the EU that I'm unaware of? I mean, I thought that things were just, carrying on. Why does there have to be this change? I guess I don't understand the need for it, unless there's just a bunch of stuff going on there that I don't know about.
as countries could be separated into more than one state, some of these new states could be equivalent to certain independence movements that exist. This way, not only would local administration be easier, but these calls for independence might be silenced as some degree of autonomy would be granted, and it would no longer be a scenario of X province being ruled over by Y country. It would be a set of many, many provinces as states being ruled together by a central European government. Obviously, this might have the opposite effect as well, and have certain countries want to leave the Union due to a refusal to give up more of their sovereignty. So the effect of trying to move towards this idea might have the opposite result of leading us to less union, forcing the following of option B, nothing but a single market, or at most option A, carrying on as we are. And this brings up an interesting question. The European Union started off 2021 with the United Kingdom finally leaving, even if just the current model is maintained. How will it go forward from here? Will more countries leave and will new ones join? First, about possible new exits. There's a few parties throughout European countries that defend leaving the EU, but they are usually extremist and don't have much popular support. Furthermore, whether you support it or not, Brexit was such a confusing mess and still presents us so much uncertainty that I doubt that within the next 5 to 10 years, we'll see any other country wanting to venture out on their own.
I have to admit, I don't really understand how Brexit is so complicated, but I have heard news stories. It just sounded like it was a big, huge mess for some reason. Like one political party basically undid Brexit and then it was redone again or something. I don't know. I think it has to do with how you guys have your government set up over in the UK. I might have to look into that a little bit more because that might be interesting to learn more about. But I don't know, are there any other countries that are actually in danger of leaving the EU?
In the next 5 to 10 years, we'll see any other country wanting to venture out on their own, at least until they can tell how the UK will effectively do on their own, unless something dramatic happened, like with the 2012 crisis that led to Greece internally discussing a possible Brexit. But what about new countries?
I mean, sorry I keep pausing it, but he said, we're gonna see how well the UK does on their own. I mean, hello, this is like the former British Empire we're talking about. I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to be just fine.
Greece internally discussing a possible Brexit. But what about new countries joining? I'll make a full video on this soon, but I want to quickly mention it here. With the UK leaving, the European Union now has 27 members, the ones represented in green on this map. Other than the UK, there are a few gaps on the map that call our
so Norway's
attention.
not.
Switzerland is...
Okay, he's probably going to go through all of them. I didn't know this. Of course, Switzerland. Switzerland is always exempt from everything, apparently. Wars and the EU. Okay, so Norway is also not part of the European Union. Iceland is not part of the European Union. Iceland is part of Europe, right? Because I know it's kind of out there. But, and so then we have like Croatia and I should know these countries down here. Montenegro, I think, Kosovo, all of these countries right in here are also not part of the EU.
Other than the UK, there are a few gaps on the map that call our attention. Switzerland is right in the middle, but due to its neutral history, I doubt it would ever join. Plus, in 2001, they held a referendum on starting negotiations to join, and no won with 76.8%. Norway could, but there's the issue of their natural resources, and so I would find them unlikely to do so, at least in the short term, but maybe one day when the oil runs out. The other
Wait, so they don't want to join the EU because they're rich in oil? That's news to me. I didn't know that. So they just don't want to share their oil resources with the rest of Europe? Is that what the deal is?
Likely to do so, at least in the short term, but maybe one day when the oil runs out. The other main area are the Balkans. Many have already joined, like Greece, Bulgaria, Croatia, and Romania. But several countries are still left out. Bosnia, Serbia, Albania, North Macedonia, and Kosovo with its special status. And it's in fact in the Balkans that future EU expansion likely lies. There are currently 5 recognized candidates for membership of the European Union: Turkey, North Macedonia, Albania, and Serbia, and all have started accession negotiations, which include the abiding of certain EU principles and rules. Some processes keep moving forward towards a foreseeable entry expected to join from 2022 onwards, but with 2025 being a more likely date for the EU to reach 29 members. But other candidates have sadly taken steps back, like Turkey, which now is incredibly unlikely to join the EU. And who else could join? There's the issue of microstates: Andorra, Liechtenstein, Monaco, San Marino, and the Vatican City, which aren't official members but are de facto members, as they take part in the Eurozone, using euro as its currency, with the exception of Liechtenstein, where the Swiss franc is used. Also have
Okay, so these little like city countries, whatever you call them, microstates, is that what he just called them? Micro countries. I don't understand how they work because they look like they're literally the size of a city. So to me, that's weird. I don't know. I guess it's kind of like Washington, D.C. over here, maybe. Like it's its own district. It's its own thing. It's not. But it's a city, though. It's a city. But it's also like a. I don't know. Is it like that?
which aren't official members but are de facto members, as they take part in the Eurozone, using euro as its currency, with the exception of Liechtenstein, where the Swiss franc is used, also having open borders with their neighbor countries of Spain, France, and Italy, which makes them part of the free movement agreements of the EU, therefore removing the need for officially joining. There are a few other states regarding which enlargement has been discussed, but whose request to join could take place. The EU rules state that any European country that is a democracy can apply to join the Union, but a few non-fully European nations have been discussed as possible members,
Really?
places in which, according to polls, at least part of the population would want to join. The Caucasus region is a good example. Armenia's poll indicates 40% wanting to join. Georgia is even bigger at 83%. Further north, Belarus is 42% in favor, but likely does not fulfill the full democracy requirement. Moldova crosses the halfway line with 56%, and Ukraine even more with 68%. But
Did he just say that these weren't European countries? Because I thought that they were. Maybe I misunderstood what he meant. I also wonder, Turkey to me, for some reason I've always associated Turkey more with like the Middle East and instead of Europe. It just seems to have more of a Middle Eastern culture, but maybe that's just all up in my head. I've not actually been there, so I feel like Turkey is sort of like the Texas of the US, because a lot of people like to lump Texas in with the South, and it's not. Texas is not a southern state. Like maybe like the top eastern corner of it is considered like southern. The whole rest of it though is more of like a western state, and that's like kind of Turkey in Europe for me. But I don't know, you guys who live in Europe, do you consider Turkey like a fully European country? It just kind of seems like borderline to me.
with 56%, and Ukraine even more with 68%. But others do not seem interested. In Iceland, only 26% say they were in favor of joining, and in Norway, the number is even smaller at 16%. And then we have another issue, which at least for now only applies to one country: rejoining. I would say this is completely impossible in the short, medium term. It took so long for the UK to finally leave that now beginning a process to rejoin would be absolutely ridiculous. A 2020 poll shows that 49% of people would support it, however, still not a majority. But another question arises from this example, in which we can expand to other countries. What about internal enlargements? This no longer applies with the UK as they left, but if Scotland achieves independence, it may on its own begin a process of joining the EU, as Scottish leaders have said they will do. Northern Ireland may also eventually vote for unity with the Republic of Ireland, making them join the EU automatically without the need for an application process. The European Council has already certified this possibility, as well as with Moldova in possibly joining Romania, and therefore the EU, as they say, it is consistent with what happened with East Germany when it was incorporated in the Federal Republic of Germany, who was already a member. This secession by Scotland and Northern Ireland would leave the UK reduced to England and Wales. And other current
So a lot of you are from the UK. What do you think about that? Do you want Scotland to get its independence? Do you live in Scotland? Do you want to have that independence? Or would you prefer to stay part of the UK? And what about Ireland? Would you guys like to see Ireland reunited into one country?
and Northern Ireland would leave the UK reduced to England and Wales. And other current members of the Union might have similar situations. In Spain, Catalonia continues to seek independence, and should they achieve it, other Spanish regions might want to follow, like Galicia and the Basque Country, wanting to assert their independence, but also wanting to take part in the big picture European project. Now, I'm not taking any sides here, but the United Nations does agree with the right of self-determination, so those who fight for separatism and independence might eventually be able to get their way. However, they would have to begin the joining process from scratch. Recently, now former President of the European Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker, said if there were to be a yes vote in favor of Catalan independence, then we will respect that opinion, but Catalonia will not be able to be an EU member on the day after such a vote, and new candidates need a unanimous vote from current members, so Spain could veto it to discourage further separatism from its regions. This doesn't make new countries less likely to appear in Spain or anywhere else, but it might mean that they would not join the EU, at least not right away. In Belgium, there is also an active movement for Flemish independence. In this case, Belgium could cease to exist and rename itself as Wallonia, effectively dividing the two nations in half. Or as some have stated, Flanders and Wallonia could become two new countries,
Flemish.
and Brussels become...
I've heard of Flemish before. I don't know what it is. Okay, looking at the Flanders, Wallonia. Are these actual places that exist now? Flanders and Wallonia and Flemish? What is Flemish? What is that? Honestly, the only thing I know about European geography is I can pretty much like label the countries of Europe, and that's about it. I know where some of the cities are, but when you break it down to this level, I don't know what I'm looking at. Very interesting. Antwerp. Yeah, see, I know some of these places exist because I've heard of them before, but what I mean by that is I don't know if this is like the hypothetical split and they're just making some of these names up, or if this is how it actually is now. All right, you guys from Belgium have to explain this.
Could cease to exist and rename itself as Wallonia, effectively dividing the two nations in half. Or as some have stated, Flanders and Wallonia could become two new countries, and Brussels become a microstate of its own, sort of as a federal district for a European capital like Washington DC or Brasilia. Flanders would have to apply to rejoin or unite with the Netherlands, as some defend and join automatically. France could perhaps seek Corsica leave for independence or to join Italy, and the southern island of Sardinia might also fight for independence, where in 2014 the pro-independence parties put together got around 1/4 of the votes. And while most of these...
Why is there like a ninja on the flag? What is that from again?
And join automatically. France could perhaps seek Corsica leave
France?
for independence or to join Italy, and the southern island of Sardinia might also fight for independence, where in 2014 the pro-independence parties put together got around 1/4 of the votes. And while most of these are just hypotheticals and highly unlikely, whether they would do it with the aim of joining the EU or not, we could see some new countries arise in Europe in the following years or decades. And these are movements that have either already begun or might begin over the next 5 years. If the UK begins its dissolution, Gibraltar could begin seeking for independence as a micro-state in the style of Monaco or Andorra. Venice might reignite its desire for independence, a place where in 2014 2.1 million people voted for secession in an unofficial referendum. As Greenland moves closer and closer to independence, the Faroe Islands, another Danish dependence, might feel tempted to follow their example. Britain's small independence movement might be successful and fully separate from France, and if Bavaria conquered their full autonomy, maybe other German states could follow, like their western neighbor of Baden-Württemberg. I would say these French and German ones are the most unlikely of all, due to small popular support and the fact Germany is already a federal state with great regional autonomy. Crimea might truly become its own nation, the Russian exclave in Poland might somehow achieve independence, and Transnistria might finally become an official country after their de facto control of some Moldovan lands.
What's going on in Italy? Why does Venice want to get out of Italy? Also, I still don't understand Gibraltar. I think it's like British controlled or something. I know you guys have tried to explain it to me on previous videos. I kind of like got it, but is it like part of Spain or is it like something separate from Spain? Is it like British control tip of Spain?
In the opposite direction, official country after their de facto control of some Moldovan lands. In the opposite direction, we might see some regional unions take place, especially if the EU begins to falter in its purpose and functioning. The Benelux could become an actual political union. Kosovo could join with Albania, amongst other possibilities. Essentially, the possibilities aren't endless, but they are vast when it comes to Europe's geopolitical future, both in and or out of the European Union. If Europe's future is unity, that unity can be achieved through the current model with the same or more new countries, or in federalism with a complete reorganization of European territory and sovereignty. If Europe's future is individual nations, more independence movements might have their way, and Europe might become an even greater mosaic of countries who may or may not choose to come together following one of the 5 scenarios we saw are possible at the beginning of the video. The EU might have discussed those 5 scenarios in 2017, but to be honest, not much seems to have changed from then until now, and I believe it will be over the next 5 years, until 2025, that the future of Europe will begin to take shape. And by then, we might see an entirely different continent, or at least the beginning of a significant change. When French Foreign Minister Robert Schuman presented the Schuman Declaration in 1950, proposing the creation of a European coal and steel community, paving the way for European unity, he stated, "Europe will not be made all at once, or according to a single plan. It will be built through concrete achievements, which first create a de facto solidarity. Which more achievements Europe will together achieve, and which countries will take part in them, is a question we cannot answer. But be it through federalism, a regular union, a simple single market, or through individual agreements between the countries we know today, or others which may soon be created, all we can hope is that the path set by Europe's founding fathers in 1950 continues to be followed, and together, in whatever way and whatever number, Europe can work as a group, as one giant democracy, fighting for mutual development, tolerance, freedom, and peace." And that was a brief overview at the hypothetical scenarios which might, over the next 5 years, start taking shape, and how Europe might begin to look different as we reach 2025 and decades that will follow. Thanks so much for watching this video. Subscribe if you want, and leave a comment below with your opinion.
Alright, well, there you have it. I'm a little confused. I don't understand why it has to be like 2025 when we will know like the future of the EU. Is there something going on right now that is like making things change? I know I asked that in the video, but I'm just kind of like, are there a bunch of movements right now that are like getting kickstarted? Did Brexit like kick off this idea that the EU is suddenly going to be different by 2025? Also at the end there, he was talking about the founders of Europe in like 1950. It just made me think, when did the term Europe actually start to be used? Because kind of like in my mind, it was always there, but I don't know. Like, when did we start referring to Europe as a continent, like the European continent? Surely it wasn't 1950 when that term started to be used. That seems like really, really late. Also, I don't really know exactly what the purpose of the EU was. I'm assuming that it was a way to sort of unite Europe and try to kind of prevent maybe some of the wars that had always happened on the continent. Also just create like better economic trade maybe. I've also heard, and this may not be true at all, so you guys let me know, but I also heard that the EU was kind of created as a counterbalance to the United States. So you guys let me know what you think about that, whether that's true or not. What do you think about all of these different scenarios? I would be really, really curious to hear the European point of view on what you think should happen to the EU over the next few years. Would a lot of you like things to just stay the way they are? Would you like them to go to more of that federalist system? Would you like to have more sovereignty in the countries and let the countries have a little bit more control and autonomy? Or would you like to see things become even more cohesive in the EU? So please let me know what your thoughts are on it. Also, if you can answer any of my questions, I would appreciate it. There were a few things in there that kind of confused me. But yeah, I would like to kind of get caught up on, like you said, the geopolitical ideas being tossed around in Europe right now, because I have absolutely no idea. So if you like this video, make sure that you like and subscribe. My channel is kind of focused on Europe, especially right now, so make sure that you stay tuned for more of that. And Roger and I will see you next time.